All right, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate everyone joining. I know it's the morning for some and the evening for others, so it's not always the easiest time, but I thank you for, oh, here we go. The video is now working. One of the things you'll notice here is that you're all on mute. So the reason we're doing that now is to just keep it easy for everyone to not speak over one another. So we can actually organize the questions so it's not everyone asking at the same time. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Greg over at MTTS, and he can tell you more about the products that they have. But VIA Global Health is very proud to host Greg and MTTS to explain some of the product features and some of the more innovative products that we have available on our catalog and on our platform. So I know many of you have actually already made requests for products, and we are happy to give you those quotes. And hopefully after you've learned a bit more about the products, you'll have even a better idea of how to sell these and where to then position these with your customers. So I'm not sure if Greg is ready to jump on, but let me see if we can get him on. As far as, yes, if you can put the video on there as well. So I guess just for everyone's knowledge, what we'll do here is now that I've introduced Greg, he'll take you through the three products that we're featuring now on VIA Global Health, which is the two phototherapy products, the Firefly and the Calibri, and then also the Dolphin CPAP machine. At that point, we'll just have him present for 10 or 15 minutes. Write down your questions. If you have any questions, we'll take those afterwards. So you can either do that by typing in your question in the questions section. It's about halfway down. Or if you want, you can click on that hand icon and you'll raise your hand. And then when it's your turn, what I'll do is then unmute your microphone and you can ask the question directly to Greg. So those are the two options, but please hold the questions until after he's had a chance to present. The floor is yours, Greg.
All right, thanks, Brian. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I think we're all over the world. I'm here in Hanoi, in Vietnam, and have the pleasure to present three of our devices that are available right now for sale and deliveries all over the world. And I hope you're gonna understand them better when you actually see them, and that's why I'm gonna move my camera a little bit back and forth so you can see everything more clearly. Just one word about MTTS is if we would like to use one word to summarize our activities and our devices will be word appropriate. All the devices that we make are for appropriate for the context, and they are for low restore settings, which means that they take into account all the limitations that you can come across, and we did during our design process. So to be more specific, I would start with phototherapies. So they are easy products. Phototherapies are lamps, basically, that are used for treatment of neonatal jaundice. So this is the first one. I hope quite a few of you is familiar with the device called Firefly. It is a little bit different to the traditional phototherapies because it's double-sided, and it is using the light source from the top and from the bottom. So I just fired it up quickly for you and see what you can, how you operate. It is really simple, just single button device. So there's nothing really to do, nothing complicated. And when it powers up, you have the device shining the light from the bottom, and from the top. The light is extremely intensive, obviously within allowed limits. I turn it off for you to see better. It's extremely intensive, and obviously within allowed minimum safety requirements. And we have the already clinical evidence that it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest, and the fastest, the most efficient phototherapy treatment on the market available. Only one moving part, bassinet having us, no fans, no moving parts, so really nothing to break. The only consumable part that comes with that is the eye patch. eye patches are required, obviously to protect the patient from the irritation from the strong light. And the restriction is this device cannot be used inside incubator or underneath the radiant warmer. So this is the limitation of the device, that it's strong, efficient, unfortunately cannot be used for all the cases. For that reason, we have also developed quite traditional or standard therapy, overhead phototherapy, that can be used in any situation and with any other devices, and it's compatible with most of the, if not all, incubators and infant warmers. It means that the size of the wheels is to fit underneath the warmers and incubators. The height is also limited not to go too high and too low for the other devices. So we can adjust it up and down and accordingly, and you don't have to adjust the angle. So what is innovative about this device, that you don't have to adjust the angle, because we have two arms, canopy arms, that are allowing us to use the warmer overhead unit directly on top of it, which doesn't obstruct the heat wave, and it doesn't remove the efficiency when the device has to be used together with a radiant warmer. It is really important feature and requested long time ago by our partners, and they found it very, very useful. And the babies that are underneath radiant warmers are treated equally efficiently to the ones that are under without any warmer, and they can be treated as a standalone unit. So those phototherapies are already here. There's not much to say. Obviously, I'm going to answer questions later. But most of the time that I have I'm allowed, I would like to spend on the final device that's called CPAP, Dolphin CPAP, and just give you the picture from far away. The device looks like that. It is 2-in-1. It's pulse ox integrated with CPAP device. Bubble CPAP device, which means that we have a PEEP bottle that generates the pressure, the humidifier that is humidifying the air, and this humidified pressurized air is delivered through the heated patient circuit to the patient. We control the oxygen level as well and the flow. So we have 5 controls that are allowed for the user, and these are exactly the same controls will be used in developed world. So the difference what is made here for this device versus the developed world device is that we, first of all, obviously the upfront price, but also the more importantly, these are the running expenses of the device. The big difference makes the reusable patient circuit. We choose the silicone grade that is possible to withstand high pressure and high temperature disinfection. So autoclave is possible with this patient circuit. The same, everything that is post-humidified, it's humidified, has to be disinfected within patients. Just to remind you, we can disinfect those elements by ourselves, either with autoclave or chemically using sodium hypochlorite or similar products, which basically can be bleach. And that's what many of our partner hospitals do. So the fact that we can reuse that circuit makes the running expenses really, really low, and this is what really making the difference to the user. The only consumable part is that cannula. I put the computer here. So the nasal cannula has to be disposed, unfortunately, because it's impossible to disinfect. So this nasal cannula is designed specifically for heated humidified circuit and for neonatal users. So it's the prong size, the length, the diameter is designed specifically for not only for our CPAP but for all heated humidified devices. This has to be disposed, and this is really inexpensive comparing to the whole circuit that in Western devices has to be disposed, and makes really big troubles for the users. So as mentioned at the beginning, there are two-in-one. There's a pulse ox and CPAP. So let me turn it on for a second, just 2 more minutes, and you're gonna see. And you're gonna see the control panel is very, very simple. So it's electronic blender. The fact that it's electronic, we don't have to do any calculations. We simply choose the flow, and the oxygen level. I'm not connected to the oxygen at the moment, so I will not be able to present it to you, but the flow and oxygen is automatically controlled, and the device only needs the connection to power and the oxygen. The air is provided from built-in air compressor inside. So we have built-in air compressor on board. We only need to provide the oxygen. Can be from oxygen concentrator, or can be directly from the cylinder of the wall, and obviously electricity. There is an option for battery backup here, which we are also going to offer within a couple of months, which will run the device on battery, depending on the size, up to 3 to 4 hours. So we have the battery backup that can run the device independently from the grid. Then choosing those two function, we adjust the column for the pressure, and that's basically it. And it's extremely, extremely simple to use. In addition to that, we have the pulse oximeter, which is from well-known brand Massimo, and it's integrated on board, very high quality system with the sensors provided as well. Useful and necessary for oxygen therapy. For high flow oxygen therapy, or high concentration oxygen therapy, I should say, it's crucial to have monitoring aboard. And obviously, it's often provided by hospitals independently, but having that together guarantees that the quality of care is there. So that's why it's integrated and all in one. Very compact machine, mobile, possible to move from place to place, has an arm, but it doesn't have to have an arm because usually it can rest on the incubator or on the bed, and easy to use. We delivered already almost 50 devices and have extremely good feedback, very happy. We keep improving the device, adding the battery solution, for example, a couple of months, but all those things is work in progress, and we're gonna keep improving them in the future as well. But the way it is now, it's already really great stuff. So this is what we have, and this is what I wanted to share with you. And I think it's good to listen to your feedback and maybe some comments, and we can discuss more in depth. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. So for some people that joined a little bit late, what we're going to do here is, now that we've seen the presentation, any questions you have or anything you need a bit more explanation with, you can go one of two ways. You can either type your question in the question section, which you should see about halfway down the software there, just below the other options. It should say questions. If you type in there, you can either send one directly to me privately, or you can send it to everyone. Or what you can also do is click on that hand icon, which basically shows that you've raised your hand and want to ask a question. At that point, I can unmute your microphone and you can ask the question directly to Greg. So I'm assuming there are some questions out there. So if anyone wants to go first, go ahead and either raise your hand or type your question. And if anyone's having any troubles finding the icons, or they're not sure, you can also just type into the chat feature and ask how you might be able to better ask your questions. I want to make sure that everyone understands. Okay, looks like we got a first question here. A few questions, good. All right. Okay, so just it's someone might have joined a little bit late. The two products that you explained, for which purpose? So I think there's obviously two different types of products here. So just maybe makes sense to explain the purpose of the Colibri and the Firefly, and then the purpose also then secondarily for the Dolphin.
Okay, so Colibri and Firefly are phototherapies. All the devices that MTTS makes in Hanoi are for neonatal intensive care. So for the patients that are up to 30 days old. Firefly and phototherapy, Firefly and Colibri are phototherapies. Phototherapies are for they emit blue light, certain wavelength. In this case, is the blue light with wavelength on 455 nanometers that is helping to treat neonatal jaundice. And neonatal jaundice is a very common condition in newborns, and especially those premature. So premature babies, their skin get a little bit yellowish. Almost all premature babies in the Western world go automatically on phototherapy. In developing countries, it's more limited. Here they go only those who can get it, really. That's why widespread phototherapies, especially in the form of Firefly, are really promoting that solution. So treating jaundice, which is shown as a yellow skin, untreated jaundice can lead to very, very serious consequences, including lifetime disabilities, brain damage, connective tissue palsy, that are horrible, horrible things. So very easy therapy for very serious, to prevent very, very serious consequences. Dolphin CPAP is for, or all CPAPs, especially our Dolphin CPAP, is for a condition called respiratory distress syndrome. For babies who cannot breathe spontaneously, for babies who can breathe, for babies who can breathe spontaneously, but they have very, very hard time to continue doing so. And as opposed to mechanical ventilators, where the babies cannot breathe at all. So then the mechanical ventilator breathes for them. CPAPs are for those babies who can breathe, but they get tired and they get usually all energy for breathing, and they eventually die. It is most of the patients with respiratory distress, 90%, maybe even 95% will go under CPAP. Only small fraction will go for mechanical ventilation. These are the worst cases, but there are a few of them. While CPAP is a lot. That's why CPAP is much more widespread and should be much more available than mechanical ventilator. While I think one for 10, I would say, usually in the system.
Okay. A few more questions lined up here as well. Do both products come in 220 and 110 volts?
Yes, both of them, all three of them go in voltage, that voltage range.
Okay. The next one. So for the Firefly, do you just sterilize the bassinet? And then I guess to answer that question first, and then I'll ask the follow-up.
Yes, you just sterilize it with soft detergents. So you don't use hard alcohol. It's polycarbonate surface. Can withstand a lot, but we want to be gentle and don't want to create too many cracks.
Okay. And then the second part of that is, does the Colibri and the Firefly just need to be sterilized between users?
Colibri doesn't have to be sterilized because it's a standalone unit and doesn't have any contact with the patient. So it's a lamp that is hanging on top of the bed. While Firefly is the bassinet that has to be sterilized between patients.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, is the wavelength of the phototherapy machines adjustable, or is it unnecessary to adjust the light given?
The wavelength is not adjustable. It's unnecessary. It's actually that would be incorrect to do that. It's a scientifically dedicated, discovered wavelength that has to be exactly the way it is. However, what we adjust is not the wavelength, the color, but we adjust the strength, the irradiance level. How strong is the light? So this can be adjusted, not in Firefly because it's double-sided and there are good reasons to simplify the design. But for Colibri, there's the choice of two modes. One is called standard and one is called intensive. So the brightness of the light can be adjusted, but it's not like a potentiometer, or just the button that switch between standard and intensive. And irradiance is measured with there are many different units, lux, but for blue light it's called in microwatts, and we have microwatt level in the standard is 25 microwatts, average in intensive is over 40 microwatts. And these are really, really good levels and very clinically efficient, and this is what you really need. And it's a clinical decision really which one to use, if you want to use the intensive or standard mode. So Colibri, yes, Firefly, single, standard, intensive mode.
Okay. I'm going to try one. It looks like one of our attendees is having issues with the sound. So I'm going to try to unmute and see if that solves it so we can ask a question. So Galiwe, if this works, give this, can you hear me now? No, it doesn't look like that, did it? Okay, sorry about that. Does anyone want to take the chance and ask the question directly, or do we have any more questions in the type? I don't see any new ones coming through on the questions panel. So does anyone else have questions that they want to type in, or specifically just raise their hand and ask it directly of Greg? Feel free also, if questions come up after the presentation, you can send those questions to me and I can forward them on to Greg and get you the answers. Also, what I've done is in the chat section, you'll see a few updates there where I've sent the product page from the Via Global Health site, specifically for the Firefly, Colibri, and the Dolphin as well. So you can see more information there, regulatory approvals, specifications, any of the very basic information, and a little bit more in-depth information as well. And if you log in with your distributor account, you can also see the pricing for these products as well. We did have one more question that's come in as well. Can the lights be replaced for, I assume, just the Colibri and the Firefly?
Right. The light source is LED. LED is one of the newest discoveries in the lighting industry, and they are, maybe I'm gonna have a little bit, tiny bulbs, as you can see, and they come on the panels. They come on the panels of different numbers. 6, the smallest is 3, the biggest is 6. We standardize it now. It's going to be, every panel is going to be 3 LED bulbs. The bulb itself, impossible to change. The LED itself, impossible to change. The panel, yes, the panel can be changed. So let's say if one dies, you can measure the irradiance. Doesn't make a difference. If it needs to be replaced, you replace the whole panel of 3. However, if everything goes okay and there's no mechanical damage or some unforeseen circumstances, the lifetime of LED bulb is very, very long. It is estimated, it's given by the factory, and these are reputable factories. We source it at Philips, which is one of the biggest suppliers in the world. They give us 50,000 hours of lifetime on the same irradiance level, with slight degradation over time, but acceptable. And it means that we have 50,000 hours translates to approximately over 6 years, continuous use, 24/7. So in theory, none of them should die within that period of time. 6 years, 24/7. So let's say they use 18 hours a day, maybe less. We're talking about 10 years here. So replacing the bulbs or replacing the panels, it's only if something goes wrong, something is broken. We say it's not like traditional fluorescent bulbs that you used to. Everybody's used to traditional fluorescent bulbs. Then they had to be replaced every 2,000 hours. Then here is no need. That's why it's the beauty of this device. It's really plug and play, and you almost can forget about it. If you from maintenance point of view, it's really nothing to break. But if it comes to that, that will be the panel. Three bulbs in one.
Okay. Several more questions have come in, actually. The first one is there any maintenance required on the Dolphin CPAP?
There is certain preventive maintenance required, but it's very minimal, and in theory can be done by the user, and it's limited to clean the filters that are on the bottom of there's a hatch at the bottom of the control box, and so this is like, I would say, every 3 to 6 months. And there's a little bit, some of the parts inside the box have limited lifetime, a shorter lifetime on the entire device. And I'm talking specifically here about the oxygen sensor. Oxygen sensor that regulates, monitors only, doesn't regulate the oxygen level. It's only monitors for monitoring purposes. Have 3 years lifetime on the 100% oxygen exposure. So again, it's not going to be 100% all the time. So we give it probably 4 or 5 years. And that part would be, you need to be replaced first, and would need to be changed. Easy access, easy change, but has to be purchased. Is not extremely cheap, but it's not also not very, very expensive. And on top of that, there is something what is called calibration, and should be done monthly. But it's self-calibration of the device, and it's by pressing 3 buttons. It's described in the quick reference guide and user manual. And it doesn't have to, no technician has to go. It just, as long as it's being followed, you know, even if there's a delay, a month or two, doesn't matter. Just pressing 3 buttons, and the device performs self-calibration in order to make sure that everything is under control. So very certain. This is pretty much everything. This is you know, within 3 minutes I explained the preventive maintenance. Obviously, the things that are being reused and are being disinfected, this quite different process, but they're gonna probably wear off first. It's a regular wear and tear. In our brochures, we specify the expected lifetime on average 1.5 to 2 years for those silicone parts.
Okay. Next up, what's the shelf life of the battery for the CPAP machine?
So the shelf life is, the battery is a little bit tricky. I think for those who are in the battery business, we know, well, the reason we don't drive electric cars yet is exactly for battery reasons. So when we shelf life, I understand you mean the storage without being used. They gradually discharge themselves. And it doesn't take a month, it takes longer. If you get this battery and you don't use it at all, it's from the factory, from memory, I have to verify that, it's gonna be between 4 to 6 months. You just need to recharge them again. The battery use, you cannot allow complete discharge. And we have the controller for that. So when the battery is in the CPAP, in use, there's no issue at all, because there's a controller, it's all designed by us, purpose-made to make sure that everything is maintained, that the battery lifetime is going to be extended. We allow only 60% discharge, and that's fine. But when you just store it for, let's say, 6 months, then you need to just turn on the device and run it to allow the recharge fully. Never allow the complete discharge of the battery. So I will have to verify that, but we're talking about 4 to 6 months of non-use. So shelf life of the battery will be, if you maintain it, you can keep it for a long time. Number of cycles, recharging cycles is up to 2,000, so it's really long. So the using time, if you use it right, is very long. And also we made everything to make sure that the user doesn't make mistakes, because we have safety controls, not allowing complete discharge and controlling the current between the battery and the device itself. When the device is plugged into AC, the battery goes the battery is not overcharged as well. So everything is there to make sure the battery is going to last for a very long time.
Okay. I have a question about the warranty period, specifically for service, but also spare parts.
All the warranties, all our devices have 1 year standard warranty. So if something, and we have warranty policy, obviously. If something goes wrong with the device that is internal, the source, the underlying cause is internal to the device, we fix for free within a 1 year period. Obviously, if the device is on the location, we will provide spare parts, and that will be your responsibility. But so we shipping back to Hanoi is like last option. We went through that already a few times, and it works really well when we have a partner on the other side. We do teleconference, video conference, and we guide the process. We also invite the distributors to Hanoi for training. The devices are really simple. There's very little to break, but within the warranty period, which is subject to the warranty policies, if somebody throw it out from the window and breaks, we cannot take responsibility for that. But if it's internal to the device, it's 1 year, we guarantee. They work much longer than that. Also, wear and tear, the standard, those parts that are subject to standard wear and tear, especially for Dolphin CPAP, they excluded from that warranty period. But there's nothing like that in Colibri, nothing like that in Firefly, because there is no such parts. So 1 year, limited liability.
Okay. We're going to do one quick one. We'll switch away from the text questions and we'll go to a audio question. So we're going to go to our friend Chipo in Zambia. So Chipo, I'll unmute you here and you can ask your question directly. Oh, we can hear you, Chipo. Go ahead.
Well, excellent. How are you doing today?
Good, good.
Excellent. I wanted to ask a question with regard to the Dolphin CPAP on the gas mixing. I think one impressive thing that I've actually seen, and I've also gotten feedback from the end users, is that the gas mixing is able to go to about 100%. How is this technology able to do this with regards to other technologies?
So is the question about the source, with 100% or lower, or I'm not sure if I understood.
Okay. My question is, one impressive thing I've noticed about your machine, the CPAP Dolphin machine, is that the gas mixing, you're able to actually go up to about 100%. So how is it that this technology is able to actually achieve this with regard to other technologies that are actually on the market right now?
Well, it's not difficult if you have the good source of oxygen. So if you have good, reliable source of oxygen, you basically provide two inputs. It's air and oxygen, and they're being blended electronically. And that the blender, there's two valves and two flow meters, they control that flow. There's no issue with blending and going to 100% oxygen at all, provided that you have a 100% oxygen source. What can be an issue here is the oxygen source. First, if it comes in the cylinders, it's not always the highest quality, and I've seen that in many countries. I've seen that in Tanzania, Kenya. I've seen that a lot. They actually oxygen cylinders. They are promised that they have 100% oxygen, but they have like 90, somewhere below. The other thing is the oxygen concentrators. None of the oxygen concentrating can go to 100%. They produce the oxygen from the air. They use nitrogen. They condensate, they separate, they condense the oxygen, and they use that from what we breathe, and they make it to a higher concentration. The highest I see 95% of oxygen. And then if you, it's possible to connect obviously oxygen concentrator to our CPAP, use it as a source for the blending. Then you will never go to 100%. You'll go maximum to 95. You'll go as much as your source allows. But you know, all this. So we don't do anything special here. We just blend what we get. Air 21%, and oxygen, whatever it is, 100 or 95. But I must tell you that in high flow oxygen therapy, this is high flow. We operating flows from 4 to 10 liters per minute. In high flow oxygen therapy, that conversation is not even much relevant to the clinical efficiency, because providing high concentration of oxygen on the high flow, it's not often used. It's actually risky and cause condition that is called retinopathy of prematurity, ROP, that can cause blindness if you provide too much oxygen for the premature baby. Then obviously it is very often used for situations where you provide low flow oxygen therapy, 1 liter per minute, maybe maximum 2, usually up to 1 liter per minute. And that's where oxygen concentrators are very handy. And then you go really high. Here, from my experience, doctors usually start at air, 21%, and they increase the oxygen as they decide clinically, justify clinically, and they go maybe to 60, maybe 70%. I think I've seen oxygen keep up on 100% only a few times in my life. But you know, obviously we provide that option for doctors. It's their choice. It's clinical call, clinical decision. Our device goes on what the source allows. So nothing really special.
Excellent, excellent.
Sure.
Excellent.
Is that everything? Do you have any other follow-up questions on that, Chipo, or is that everything you needed to hear?
Well, I think on the machine, I'm actually good. Though there's one part I actually did not get. I understand that this is a 2-in-1 machine, isn't it? So I didn't get the other part of the apart from the CPAP itself.
Well, it is 2-in-1. It has pulse oximeter built-in. I think this is really important. Obviously, there's plenty of pulse oximeters on the market now, but having 2-in-1 is convenient, really, really convenient. And doctors really appreciate that, because every doctor who uses the CPAP, every responsible doctor, every doctor who has access to technology and resources, know that it has to go with monitoring, especially for premature babies. You can save the baby from respiratory stress. You can create disabilities, blindness, and it's a lot of things that can go wrong. So monitoring is extremely important here, and we at the moment selected the Massimo Fossa, which is like world class, and at reasonable price. You're gonna have, if you just buy that pulse oximeter, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. But we working also on the option to go with other pulse oxys, so we're gonna probably have a choice, maybe even reduce the price of the device if you're gonna use another module, pulse ox module. But for now, we have Massimo, recognized brand. I think it's a great thing, and we get 2-in-1. So it's really a really good thing.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
All right, I think we'll jump back to the questions that people had. There's a few more here. So are the eye guards, sorry, I'm just looking at it. Okay, so is it specific eye guards that are necessary?
Yeah, so the eye patches, yeah, we call them eye patches. We offer, they are necessary for sure, but they are not specific. The one we provide with the device is every device comes with 15 of them, 15, 5 of each size, 3 different sizes. There's no specifics here. Once the hospital announced that there's certain guidelines that we designed them based on the WHO guidelines.
Hey, Greg, I think we're getting some sound issues on your side. I don't know if everyone else is hearing that, but it sounds a bit muted.
Okay, how about now?
That's better. Yep.
Okay. So the eye patches, we provide 15 pieces per device, one of each size. Sorry, 5 of each size, 3 sizes, and they are washable, reusable. But what is important to understand that they have to be nicely clean between the patients, because whereas here that area is also prone to cross-contamination. So it is important to have them disinfected. There are very nice WHO guidelines on the eye patches, how they should be done, and I'm sure it's possible to make them locally. We provide them. We can provide unlimited amount, but I think this is something that could be a follow-up for distributors. A very easy product to make and get it to the patient later on, and should be cheap. Really, if it's disposable, it should be very cheap. Hospitals sometimes use band-aids, gaze, do a lot of different things. One thing for sure, the eye patch has to be there. The light is so powerful that none of you would like to be there for more than a minute. So without eye patch, so have to be there.
Okay. Next question here is what is the installation process in remote areas like the interior of India in particular?
Yeah, so Dolphin CPAP and Firefly phototherapy are plug-and-play devices. You simply unpack and connect. It's nothing you have to do. Colibri phototherapy, due to its size, it's a three parts assembly. Very easy with a wrench only. So it should be, often it's just installed by the user. We provide, obviously, everything's in user manual. We have videos on the website, everything's there. I think the installation can be easily done by anybody who has basic mechanical skills or technical skills, very, very basic. Obviously, the training is a different story, but for the therapies are not difficult, especially for doctors who are familiar. For CPAP, the training is a little bit different, but for those locations that already use oxygen therapy, CPAP is it's not a new device. We do a lot of charity programs in NGO, and we often hesitate to deliver to those who want to introduce the devices to the brand new locations that have never done respiratory oxygen therapy before. I think that would be too risky, because a lot of things can go wrong during therapy, respiratory therapy. But for people who know oxygen and they work with oxygen, just have to connect it. One tricky thing about connecting CPAP is exactly the connectors to oxygen. There's no standard. There's standard DISS standard for oxygen connectors, but in developing countries, nobody follows. So maybe you have to cut the hose and adapt it, clamp it, put another connector. That's the biggest challenge we had so far. But if this is the biggest challenge, I don't consider that difficult at all.
Okay. Next question is about the phototherapy machines. Is there a battery-operated mode? And if not, is one in development?
The battery I mentioned is we have standalone unit, standalone battery unit that is independent from the devices. On CPAP, there's dedicated place for that. On the Dolphin CPAP, here we have the like a shelf. On Colibri, it can be clamped here. On Firefly, there's no place. It has to be like next to the device. So that single battery solution is for all the devices. It's the same battery and the same principles. The only difference is that some of the devices are going to run longer and some of the devices are going to run shorter due to power consumption. So the wattage is higher in the CPAP. We're talking about 120 watts. Firefly and Colibri are about 30 to 40 watts. So I said Dolphin is gonna, on that battery that we have at the moment, it's gonna run 4 to 5 hours. Dolphin and Colibri is gonna run up to 16 hours. So the same battery, and the battery is connected to the device, and battery controls, understands where the power source comes from, and either direct it to the device without charging the battery, charge the battery. It can be connected to solar panels, for example. It's all the devices on the 12 DC system. So we connecting the battery without need for inverters. And if you can charge it from AC, we connect the power supply, external power supply that we have with the device here. So these are, all of them run on this power supply. It's the external DC power supply. And this DC power supply charges the battery, or can go directly to the device if you want, if you don't want battery. And even the Dolphin CPAP is the same, but it's hidden in the stand, so we can see it, but it's also 12-volt DC system.
Okay, it looks like we only have one more question left, so if anyone has anything else, definitely now is the time to add that to the list. But the last question is about alarms. Are there any alarms which go off if something goes wrong with the products, or is it dependent on self-maintenance?
Because there are alarms, obviously, there are alarms. And it's all regulated by EC Directive for European Union. We can exceed that requirements as well, but it's very comprehensive. In terms of phototherapies, not much, because when the light are broken or there's no power, it's visible. So the requirements are very, very small. So there are really no alarms for phototherapy. But for Dolphin CPAP, we have the whole panel of alarms, and but we made it as simple as possible. So maybe I turn it on for you again if you have time. I hope we do. So when we have, you see all those LEDs, all those lights, these are alarms, but they don't confuse anybody as long as they are off. Nothing going on. Now we have only one alarm here, 25. It's a temperature alarm because it takes time to warm up. We have a temperature set on 37 degrees, so it's going to take a while to get to this 37 degrees. So there's alarm. So this is alarm, and we have bunch of alarms here: power failure alarm, air source alarm, oxygen source alarm, flow alarm, the heater alarm, humidifier alarm, pressure alarm. All those alarms are specified by the standard. They are required. They usually don't appear until something goes wrong. And the information, each of them is explained. What are the action points? What are the solutions? What can go wrong? Everything is in the manual, and this is quite standard. Our approach is not to confuse people, not to make it scary, because this is one of the biggest mistakes of Western devices, that they assume huge knowledge of the user. We assume basic knowledge and make it really, really simple. And as long as they're not here, they're invisible. But this panel, this is alarm panel. And the same for pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter have standard alarms for the heartbeat and the saturation level, a higher and lower level of ranges of alarms. So it's very standard. These are the alarms ranges. These are actual readings. Now, obviously, I'm not connected, so there's no sensor, but they're all the alarms. You can mute them, you can unmute them, but momentary mute button only for 2 minutes. This is, again, everything is according to requirements, minimum or safety requirements of European Union. We follow that. We've adding extra, exceeding them often, but adding extra functions to allow them to use in lower source settings. So this is all about our company, the way we work.
All right, thank you very much. So I don't see any other questions. If anyone does have other questions, feel free to email those over to me directly. and I can coordinate with Greg to get you the right answers. I also did paste in the product pages from the VIA site specifically for the Colibri, Firefly, and Dolphins. So if you have any initial questions, you likely can find your answers there first, but happy to accept any questions you have and coordinate with Greg on those. And with that, I just want to say thank you to Greg for taking the time and answering everyone's questions. I hope this was informative for everyone. Definitely was for me. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure, you're welcome. And as I said, feel free to contact you directly. Brian provides all the information. I'm very happy. I have a lot of evidence it works everywhere else. We've been in the market for 13 years. We learned a lot. We keep improving, and there are new products coming soon. So yeah, I'm going to be very happy to explain more on the new products soon.
Yeah, and I know we've received quite a few quote requests for some of the products. So if anyone has any specific questions on pricing, logistics, spare parts, anything like that, definitely feel free to reach out. And to everyone else throughout the world, thank you for joining and for the very insightful questions. If you have any more, again, feel free to reach out to me directly. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to everyone very soon.
Thank you. Bye.